Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Komal, and for today's movie review, I have selected a movie, Aligarh. It's a 2016 film. Uh, about the film, there are very less films that cease to be a story or mere a depiction of an issue because we lived it. The movie Aligarh is one of them. The movie mirrors the depiction of the society common mindset regarding the non-acceptance of those who doesn't neatly fix into the boxes labeled as male or female, and which portrays that we, being a progressive society, can still cannot conceive of a sexual identity outside of this so-called accepted identities. So, as per the movie is a real life biopic of a 64-year-old Professor Siras that is played by Manoj Bajpayee. His life is disrupted when a local TV journalist break into his room and film his sexual acts without his permission. And at the same time, it's very surprising that the colleagues of the Professor Siras were in the nearby facility and came to his room because they got an anonymous call from someone regarding a film shooting at the campus, which looks a little hard to believe. Later, because of this act, the next day, Professor Siras was suspended from the Aligarh University for being homosexual. He was subjected to physical and psychological torture for his sexual preference. Meanwhile, uh, the other person in the story is a Delhi journalist, Vitu Sebastian, played by Rajkummar Rao, is the man who sees that what Professor Siras is really is. This movie depicts the journey of Professor Siras on the one hand, who believes that his sexual orientation is his own business and we should stop categorizing people into different labels. And on the other hand, there is Devu Sebastian, which makes us believe that there is a power, still a power in positive journalism and how it can affect the society at large if it's used rightly. Then the movie further folds when the university takes action against Shiraz for his sexuality, but ignores his privation violation of privacy. Because after all, morals of the organization comes one's individual rights. Eventually, because the notions of the morality are obstructing the ideas of freedom, democracy, and individualism, Professor Siras, like any other individual in the country, took the help of the judiciary of India. And from there, the movie takes a different turn, where the council in favor of Professor Siras made points like a person's privacy cannot be violated on the scale of morality. And what exactly is the scale of morality? For someone who is a vegetarian, eating a non-veg is immoral. For someone who is a family of his own, for them a 64-year-old bachelor is not an ideal person that a society needs. So the scale of morality is not something according to which we can decide whether this person have the right to privacy or not. The court hearing proceed, and later the judgment is delivered by Allahabad High Court, upholding the Delhi High Court verdict of famous NAS Foundation versus NCT Delhi, decriminalizing Section 377 of Indian Penal Code. As I said, this is a real life story. The real life case, if anyone is more interested in, it's on the internet. It's Srinivasan versus University of Aligarh University 2010. You can find it on the internet. It's there. Then, if even then the story comes at a very sad ending that even though the judgment came in the favor of Professor Siras, he was found dead in his flat a day before his suspension was needed to be revoked. This depicts a very sad and unfair reality of the people in the form of demons who are living in between us and who will go to any limit to prove their point of morality that that one should need to be followed, and that is the scale of morality that everyone should follow. At this point, the movie ends. In the real life, also, Professor Siras died in real life, and the police found that it is foul play. There were traces of poison found in his food, which depicts that it's more of murder than a suicide or a natural thing. Coming to the case review of the movie, uh, so the laws involved are the Section 377 of Indian Penal Act that criminalizes unnatural sex. Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, that is right to equality and equal protection of law. Article 19(1)(g) of the Indian Constitution, that is right to practice any profession or carry on any business. Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, that is right to life, and Article 226 of the Indian Constitution, that gives the power of High Court to issue writ. In this case, the High Court issued the writ of mandamus and mandate the Aligarh University to take back the suspension of Professor Siras and give his accommodation back to his original place. The issues involved in the case is the main legal issue involved was whether the suspension of Professor Siras justified. Were there any sufficient grounds to suspend him from the university? And whether any employee with a good track record at work be removed by violating his personal space and privacy? Because the social issue of homophobia that we have in our society and the prevalence of prejudice against the third gender is still there. If we look at the records of government of India that is submitted to Supreme Court in 2012, at that time there were 2.5 million gay people in India, but still the issue is still there. I think 2.5 million people are enough to make this point that this issue shouldn't be here anymore, and the law is doing things regarding the people, and the society should accept everyone as their own, and there shouldn't be any more differences between male, female, and any other gender. So in the case, I have involved different judicial proceedings. First of all is Kharak Singh versus State of UP, 1964. It is a case when the first time Supreme Court acknowledged that right to privacy is a fundamental right. The other case is Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, where the court held, Supreme Court of India held that uh, unreasonable and arbitrary procedure cannot be used to restrict any fundamental rights of any individual whatsoever, regardless of race, caste, gender, sex, or religion. The next case is the famous case of Nas Foundation versus NCT Delhi. That uh, that was a gem itself, and which is referred in the movie also, wherein the Delhi High Court for the first time declared 377 as unconstitutional. Even though that was later overruled, but uh, because of the Navjot Singh Johar versus Enough of India, the Supreme Court finally declared Section 377 as unconstitutional and decriminalized it. So the analysis of the movie is the movie depicts the social taboo of homophobia, but the depiction of the lady justice that we have in courtrooms is blindfolded, weighing scales and scores, which doesn't need to see people as regard of their sexual orientation, which says that there will be no discrimination on the basis of religion, race, caste, color, as per our Indian constitution, and the court will only consider the law and the evidence. Justice will follow if you have required backing of evidence and law. The movie further throws lights on how we all must have a progressive mindset and realization that every human has a right to be treated equally with respect, equity, and dignity. The social issue that the movie relates to the homophobia presence in the mind of people that make them go to such an extent that they violate an individual privacy by forcefully invading their homes for their own personal gain. Even if that means harassing the individual in any manner and not accepting the verdict of honorable court of law. This is evident in the climax of the movie where Professor Siras is murdered before he could even return to the university. What I concluded from this movie is the Transgender Act 2019 is passed. That is a first step regarding the empowering of the third gender of the community. The movie also makes us think about the old and regressive notions that are still as a part of our society. But fortunately, we are slowly breaking these chains, and change is evident in the Supreme Court judgment that decriminalized Section 377. Some very few points that is important, and that is a very important lesson from the movie is there should be an acceptance of person with genders, and there should be any no discrimination regarding any sexual orientation. There should be an acceptance of rule of law. That should be the first and foremost thing. And there should be a freedom of choice, respect, and other human beings to everyone. Because these human rights we all the citizens of India have the same human rights, and we should all respect the human rights that we have, and we should not discriminate people regardless of what their sexual orientation is. So that is it. That's what my conclusion from the movie is. I think I have made myself